Hello, Springhouse and friends. It's good to talk to you again. You may be aware that the governor has decided to reopen the state in May. And let me just say that when I first heard that, I thought, okay, we better get busy about how we're going to have our public worship services here in about 10 days. However, the fine print actually states that the guidelines still call for avoiding gatherings of more than 10 people. And while that means that you can certainly invite maybe your neighbor or another family over to your house to watch the service with you, we're not going to reopen just yet. We'll continue to monitor the situation, and we'll let you know what's going on when we know. However, that does bring me to the topic that I wanted to talk about this week, and that is, how is all this going to affect the church? I mean, ultimately, how will the church come out of this? I've read a lot of speculation about that over the last few weeks. And by the church, usually what we're talking about in this particular case is public worship gatherings. How will this affect that? Well, I've got my 2 cents I'd like to put in. First of all, there are 2 things that I am virtually certain of. And one of them is that those who have habitually absented themselves from public worship in the past will continue to do so. The writer of Hebrews says that we should not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, and all the more as we see the day approaching. And good grief, I mean, the day is certainly approaching, and I think we can see it. However, habits are hard to break, and so I don't necessarily look for a big influx of prodigals or absent saints, if you will, when public worship services start back up. However, those who find grace, who find comfort and encouragement in the fellowship of the saints, who find joy in the fellowship of the saints, I think probably miss it a lot. And even some who maybe are a little bit lukewarm in their attendance and things, I think this may help, quite frankly. Back in the early 70s, Joni Mitchell recorded and released a song called Big Yellow Taxi, but most people know it as Paved Paradise and Put Up a Parking Lot. One of the lines in the song said, "You don't know what you got till it's gone." And I think that for some people, maybe they didn't know what they had. Some knew what they had and initially went, man, I'm going to miss this. But I think some others have discovered that maybe they missed it more than they thought they would miss it. So those are the 2 things that I'm virtually certain of. There are a couple of other things, though, that I see, and knowing me, not unsurprisingly, I'm optimistic about. One is churches are learning to use technology. That's not a bad thing. I mean, churches who never thought they would ever use technology are finding out that they have to at least do Facebook Live or something and get out an iPhone and record something. Other churches that had done a little bit with technology, like us, are getting a lot better. And in fact, we hope to even get better still. We're upgrading some equipment and upgrading some knowledge and upgrading some practices in the way that we do things. And that's a good thing. When Margaret and I were in Spain for her cancer treatments back at the end of 2018, we watched the services. That was our church service. We were in a city where we didn't know anybody. We were in a city where there were no English-speaking churches. In fact, there weren't many churches, and quite frankly, Margaret just didn't feel up to taking that hike to go to a church. And so we'd watch the services online, and it was a time change. It was an evening service for us, but it was a morning service here. But it was great. We loved it. It was a connection, and so I think people are kind of learning that, okay, if I can't go, if I can't be there, there's actually a good alternative for me. And the church is providing a good alternative. And then one other thing that I think might be the result of this that I'd be pretty happy about is I think there may be some non-believers or prodigals or whatever out there who've just gotten so bored with this stay-at-home thing. And maybe on Sunday morning they go, you know what, there's no sports, there's no football, there's no basketball, there's no baseball, there's no hockey, there's and bored with politics, quite frankly, and maybe have decided, you know what, I'll just see what this church thing is about. Apparently everybody's streaming church services. I'll watch one. And then after watching it, maybe begin to understand, whoa, this is different. You know, sports is very manic. If my team wins, yay, rah, I'm having a great day. And if my team loses, I'm totally bummed. In politics, good grief, when I watch some politician up there mouthing off the same drivel that they normally mouth off, or when I watch Meet the Press or Beat the Press or whatever it's called these days, I feel like biting through nails. But when I watch this, makes me want to go help somebody. Makes me feel different. Yeah, well, they're actually encountering Jesus, and the Holy Spirit is actually working in their lives. He never stops, He never stops working. And a lot of you know that song. My 4-year-old grandson was talking to his mom a few weeks ago, and he said, never stops, never stops, never stops. How does he do that? Well, there's a lot of things about him that we don't know how he does it. But it's great. It's great. And so is meeting together. And I hope to be able to do that again soon. Once we know that we can, I'll let you know, and we'll talk about the new protocols that will probably have to be put in place at Springhouse. In the meantime, keep loving each other. I love you guys. Talk to you later.